together. Ah, ugh. I think that's probably better if I put that light on instead of that one. Let's see. All right. Hi, you guys. I know you guys are like, what the heck? Yeah, today I actually had to look like something because I actually had to go in and go to work. So I actually had to look like I had some sense. So, that's what I did. I should have used my push-up bra. That's kind of messed up. Anyhow, not even on here for that. Today, I just wanted to let you know what was going on with my day. Just like a normal day, like everyone else. I really couldn't get up out the bed today. Sometimes it's a little bit of a struggle. Now, I don't know if it was because of the salty Cheetos that I know I shouldn't have had and these freaking Burmese noodles, y'all. I am addicted to these Burmese noodles. They taste kind of like ramen noodles, but they have like 3 times as much sodium in there than the regular like ramen noodles. But they are so good. So good. And I'm not even supposed to have those because of all the sodium, because that sodium in one pack is enough for an entire week. But the flavor is so good. Like, y'all, you don't even need to eat anything else. When I eat that, I don't even want anything else other than water. Now, I still am a little bit dehydrated, but it was so good. So, anywho, I was a little laggish getting up. But I got up anyway because, of course, there are things to do. And I get really antsy when there's not a lot of things to do, but I get really enthusiastic when there are a lot of things to do because it gives me more emphasis or more, I don't know, it gives me a sense of responsibility, I guess. So I go into overdrive and I really like that. It gets me motivated to get up. So that was my motivation to get up, because I started finding extra things, even though I've set my schedule for certain things. There were other projects that needed to be taken care of that were in the way. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's not so good. But anyhow, got up. And one of my friends invited me to lunch when I was talking to her. She's always going to lunch. Always the small friends. I went and not to throw shade, it's not like that. I love her so because we both love to eat. So we went out, we ate, and we were talking about some of the things that people go through with mental illness. And I did have permission to speak on her mental illness in this discussion. So I'm not going to say her name, but this person suffers from bipolar depression. And I believe it's on the manic. I think she said it's the manic side. I've seen her on both sides of depression, but I think she's labeled as manic, meaning that, you have a euphoria, you have your mood. That's the mood swings, those mood disorders. One minute your emotions are high, you might get excited for something. And, a normal person, when they're excited, they get to, you express the excitement. And after that, a little bit, the elevation goes back down and you go back to a stable or a normal point in your emotions. Well, people who have bipolar, it doesn't actually happen that way that quickly. As a matter of fact, if they get very elevated, it'll stay there, or they get very depressed, it stays there. Their mood stays there and it doesn't go back to normal very longer. You'll see that in children too a lot. That's the biggest clue. You'll see it in children. A lot of adults have this disorder too, but a lot of children, you'll see it where they can be upset about something and they're still lingering over it after a couple of minutes or 10, 20 minutes versus someone who didn't have the disorder, which they would be upset for about 3 to 2 minutes. So, anyhow, she started talking about her experiences about it and how she's comfortable expressing, her issues with me, and not only that, and how she felt comfortable with me because I did not judge the situations that she was going through. Now, what I had to tell her is that, because she was upset with, some of the people that were around her that were judgmental, and it hindered her from getting help. What I did remind her is that, for one, I was one of those people. It took me a minute to understand it and learn it. And God told me that I was going to see it. And I literally had to walk through it. Like, I wasn't getting any type of help whatsoever to get away from. I was literally surrounded by people who had mental illness, like, just like that. Like, as much as I wanted to be away from them, I had to be around them. Not only that, I felt like, not like a fix it, but I just always wanted to know what was wrong, what's going on, and how is this triggering? Like, what are they thinking in their mind? Always been like that. I can't help it. So, yeah, so we were talking about that, and she started asking me about the plans that I was doing, and, why I had been pulling back so far. And I was explaining to her, why, and the next steps that, God is really positioning me into the right arenas and the steps to do what, he had reminded me previously before, and what he spoke to my mom, which I didn't know, of course, because he spoke to her, not me. So it wasn't none of my business to know. But anyhow, the things that she told me that actually are coming to pass now, as far as, setting up this non-for-profit and helping other people, not just for, just saying you're setting up a business or a non-for-profit, but opening up an avenue or an arena to people who need help, not only at this time, but for a long time, especially in American culture. People with mental illness are deemed like less than, like they don't have a voice, especially mothers going through that instance and having that. So that's where that desire ended up coming, because I was lacking that, and I started seeing that how I would draw more to the people who, like, more the women in my life. And even though some of them were very much mean, but I saw that need. God was able to show me that need, even though it was deemed that I didn't have a mental illness, but that was the need that opened up the gate. And then to see my mom going through it, and to see it's one thing to understand mental illness, but to go through it and see and watch your loved one go through it is a whole different process. Just like seeing it, if you were a spouse, seeing it as a child, when you know that the person that's in front of you is supposed to be your caretaker, they're supposed to be guiding you, and they can't, because they got this inconsistency that's going on that's hindering them from doing it. It's gonna cause a negative effect. You're gonna be less responsive. One of the things that I also had to explain to her, that I almost started going through a series of having emotional neglect, because some of those needs, that bonding with the mother and the child wasn't there. So I had to get it at, like, other places. So which I did. I got it at other places, and I learned from that. When I do need that, I reach out to the people who give me that that need right then. But dealing with someone with mental illness, especially if they don't have a handle on it, it's a whole different ball game. It's just like they understand, because I don't want anyone to think like, if you have people who have mental illness don't know what's going on. Most of the time they do, especially people who have schizophrenia or people who have bipolar. They know what's going on, but they have no way of controlling it. They have no way of controlling it. And when I say controlling it, combating it. What do you do when this symptoms come? How do you reach out? Things like that. So most do end up in the penal system, they're, in jails and penitentiaries and things like that, instead of getting the actual help, and I understand, the prevention of it. It can save lives. It's been proven, that when you get this kind of help, this has saved lives. A lot of these people who have these mental illnesses, they're less likely to commit crimes when they are given the right amount of help and positive forces that can help them come back and go back into society as normal citizens, as average, citizens, ways to make transitions into society safer. When you have a open door policy, as far as, if I feel like, I'm having a mental breakdown, I can talk to someone and not be judged and not be labeled and not deemed as incompetent of doing my job, then you're going to be more than willing to go and try to get that kind of help. Versus, if I say that I have this, people are going to talk. People are going to give me that stigma. They're not going to want to be around me. If I've, committed a crime out of mental, based off of me being deemed insane, people are going to have that stigma. They're not going to want to be around me, or they're going to just want to run from me. So I feel isolated, which brings them more into isolation, and they want to go back, because being either in an asylum or being put away is at least a safe route from them facing their fears or the emotions of being rejection, because these people have feelings too. So I did have to explain that to her, and I was, explaining that to you guys. So I started talking. I also started talking about how this road and this transition, I feel like it was already predestined for me to do. Yeah, predestined. Okay. Because I saw some things like, if I can, it probably would scare you. Sometimes you see part of yourselves doing something before time, before you actually do it, and then you actually do it, and then you're like, oh my goodness, that was God, showing me. So we were talking about that, and how she was talking about how she wanted to be, a part of it, and how she was being, told like she couldn't do things on her own, and she was going to help people tell her story. So I'm going to go and eventually show you some of the reports and some of the stories that I do have on some of the people that I met, while being homeless, out of homelessness, because a lot of those people, when you deal with, mental illness, or you're dealing with homelessness, you'll usually see it with mental illness, people dealing with mental illness, self-esteem issues, codependency. I said mental illness, drug addiction, or any kind of addiction, alcoholism, shopism, shopaholics. What else? Workaholics. You'll believe, I'm telling y'all, a lot of those people who that I met who had drug addictions, even the person that I used to be with before I became homeless had a addiction to work. Like, he would work, and I think that was because so he can fund his habits, but he would work. Even when he did, he still would have a lot more money, but he would work like 6 doubles in a week and still have the energy and just get on up. Like, anytime it's some kind of issue, it's work, 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 work. You put in your work, to ease the pain, kind of thing. So, yeah, you guys. So we were talking about that, and also some of the issues, some of the things that she was telling me, how she had been through the rodeo before, meaning that she went and tried to get help, and there were some people and facilitators and people who had the resources to help her. They seemed like they were going to help her and, use her story as a cause and everything else. But at the end, she never really got help. And then when she tried to reach out again, it was no way for her to get that help. And, it not only hurt her, but it hurt her son. So um yeah. She also talked about being a mom with mental illness. So it opened up a lot of things that I don't have access to. I don't know the perspective of a mother dealing with mental illness, having children. You know, and I always hear people's stories, and I'll tell you, everyone's story is different. I don't like to tell anyone else's story but my own, because I've had so many people to try to tell me my story and get it all wrong, because they want to paint it as this picture of, oh, she was in a trash can. Oh, she had nobody. She was left in. Her father was in a deportation camp, and they were locked up, and it was just hard. And it's just like, okay, boo boo. Let me just, for me, now, does that mean that those things didn't happen? No, but I think that the best author is the originator. The best person, the best orator is the originator. There is where you find the real facts. There is where you find the real masterpiece. It's just like a painting. Your story is a painting of a scene that you're going through. So that is exactly what you're doing. You're painting a story. So think about a painting. Do you pay more money for the original or for the imitation, the thing that goes after it, that's mocking it? No, you pay more for the original. And that's the same way that I feel about people's stories. It is your story. It is your obligation to tell it. Now, if it was to happen that you don't have the option to tell it, as far as you're gone off this earth, because sometimes people can tell stories. Just because they're not speaking doesn't mean they're not telling a story. Every time we walk around, we're expressing our version of our story. Every time we're walking around, and how we interact and how we react to things, to the world around us, we are telling our story. So like I said, no one can tell your story better than you. So that's what this whole platform is about. Is just having people to open up and tell their story, because nothing is better than having the original artwork of something, and your obstacles and your imperfections, just like an artwork, you see the imperfections could be someone else's key to unlocking to their masterpiece, to fixing the puzzle to their life. My friend, at that time, while we're exchanging dialogue, and we're exchanging community, and we're fellowshipping with each other, and we're eating at this restaurant, unlocked a lot of keys and a lot of doors that I would not have the opportunity to, or I don't have privy to, because I don't have that experience. You don't just come across people for no reason. You just can't have everything in a box. And I don't want to say that this is just my story, or this is just my mom's story. This isn't. This is the story that God has placed on my hands to give out and to share to the world. I didn't have it at the beginning. It was given to me. It can be taken away from me, of course. But I'm going to put out as much as I can about this topic. And it's something that needs to be addressed and needs to be spoken about. When I go to different countries and talk about this, you see a lot of updates of how people change their mental institution environments. Ours is, for the most part, we just feed them and they sleep. It's a mundane kind of experience. But studies have shown that everyone reacts to different things, different stimuli, different. And once again, if you're trying to produce, citizens that are going to be able to handle outside of the institutions, and outside of the penal system, outside of the mental behavioral health systems and asylums, then you're going to have to introduce them to the stimulants that are outside. So you can't just expect someone who's been in a mental institution for 5 months, 6 months to a year, or years, and or in a penal system, because that's the next option. If they commit a crime, they don't get to go to the asylum, they go to the penitentiary, and then they don't get the help there. So now they're stuck and they're angry because they know that it was the illness, it wasn't them, that just intentionally did it. It was the mental illness that prevented them from getting and having the lack of help and the lack of discipline and the lack of resources, that made them have this psychotic episode and have these episodes to go out and commit these crimes. And now they're stuck, and some of them don't get the help. They don't get the help. They don't get the therapy. They don't get the counseling. The CBT time, the cognitive behavioral techniques, that you need to talk things out and get it off. They're just holding it inside, and they still don't know how to function when they get out, because they've been so used to this set schedule. Get up, eat. You don't have that much time to do this, and that, and you get out, and then you're out in the world, and now there's no schedule. You might be on probation, but there's no schedule as far as you getting up, doing things. Limitations on how people are visiting you, how people are seeing you, and that throws a curveball. If you don't have to face, you might have an issue with someone, but if you're living in a penal system, after a certain minute, yeah, you'll be close to people, but you can avoid them. What about if you're working around someone and you can't stand them, or you're having a conflict and you don't know how to you've never been in that situation? You're going to lash out the best way that you can. You're going to try to respond the best way you can, fight or flight. And some of those fight and flight ways that you go about the situation can either lead you back into that system, which it usually does, or leave you feeling hopeless. So those are some of the things that we were talking about, and not only talking about, but those are the things that I learned from today. And I understood that, going through this situation, I saw more. It was going through it and understanding it and seeing things firsthand. Also, I will tell you this. There are, you guys know that I am a spiritual person. There are some people who are mentally ill. And then there are some people who are ill mentally. And there's a difference. People who are mentally ill, it's dealing with the mental illness. But ill mentally, some of these people are, and that's an illness too. Some of these people are intentional in being trickery, foolery, trying to get something out of you, trying to do some crazy stuff. So, and some of those people are mentally ill, but it's just on a different path. So I'm not gonna say all mental illness is all happy-go-lucky, boo-hoo kind of. It's not. It's not. But if we as a people can attack this and try to make better solutions, we'll come out with better ways of helping our community and making our place a little bit safer and productive for the people that are around us. We can rebuild families with this. We can rebuild lives with this, having those clues and having those side institutions that are reintroducing people back into society, because that's what our correctional facilities are supposed to be doing. That's what our medical facilities are supposed to be doing, our mental treatments, our transitional housings. But we see that we are still falling short. We are still falling short. And that's okay. That's okay. Doesn't mean that we're doing anything so like it's horrible, it's bad. We're just saying that what is in place right now is not working for us. So what can you do? And that was my call to get up, my call to duty. Call to duty. Anyhow, what is your call or your calling to do in the world? So that's what I learned so far today. I'm gonna have to get off here because I have to put my logs in. And also, oh my goodness, to put my logs in, I need to stretch. And excuse me. And because I definitely had outside lunch, I have to reschedule reschedule my book. So that's what I'm going to do. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Hopefully something I said or done will help you on your journey. Please stay tuned to Journey to Jerusalem. And thank you so very much.